It's not the best of weather today. It's very sunny if you look over my shoulder, which is great, but it's also very windy, and that wind is cold. We are approaching December, so you can expect it at this time of year. It's going to cost you a little bit more through winter months, but we've also had a couple of changes made to our electric bill, and it's definitely not going to suit everyone. The main reason I'm making this video today is because things have changed to what they were last year regarding the electric bill. So I'll go over the changes and then I'll explain why I don't think this is going to suit everyone. So what's occurred is that last year when we was paying an electric bill on this holiday park, we just paid for the electric plus 5% VAT. There wasn't any standing charge at all, but the site is now in the hands of a new owner, and this electric bill does have a standing charge on it, but it's not as bad as people may think. It just depends on your current situation. As you may or may not know, we pay our electric bills twice a year on this site, so once every 6 months. But when you're in a house, you pay it quarterly, so once every 3 months. But when we received his electric bill for this 6-month period, we noticed that there were standing charges added to this bill. But it's not all bad. The new owner has been looking at different options, different tariffs if that's what they're called, and trying to get a better unit rating. On the previous bill, without a standing charge, the unit charge was 39 pence per unit. But on this bill, the units are 23 pence. So that is a really big drop. But then you do have a standing charge on top, which is £96, and then everything's added together, and then they add 5% VAT to that. But I've done a few calculations to give you a better idea of what we're looking at, and then I'll go a little bit more into detail as why I think it's not going to be very pleasing for a few people. So I've done a few examples. So we'll start with the original unit rate. So that was 39p per unit, and I'm just going to times that by 300 units, just as an example. And that works out at £117. But then we have to add 5% VAT to that. So that then comes to 122. So the exact same calculation again, but this time with the new rate. So it's 23p per unit times 300 units. And that works out at £69. So quite a drop. But then also we have to add the standing charge. And the standing charge is £96. So then you add that to the amount of electric that you've used, and that gives you a figure of £177. And you may have noticed that there's no pences on any of these calculations. I'm just rounding them off just to make it easier. But the original calculation said 122, and now it's 177. So that's £55 more. The reason I think that's not going to suit quite a lot of people is based on the fact of how often you use this site. And in case you don't know, this is an holiday park and you've got 12 months access to it. So you can come down to your holiday home in spring, summer, autumn or winter, and you can come and go as you please. So it's a 12-month access, but it's non-residential. So you can't live on this site. You can visit as often as you want. Now there is quite a few of these vans on site where people don't use them very much. For example, this van that we've just bought. We bought that for a reason. The guy that sold us this van has only been down to site twice for a couple of days in nearly 2 years. So when you think that your site fees are £3,100 for a year, but you're only coming down for a couple of days per year, it's not really worth your time, in my opinion. If you can afford it, that's great. But in my opinion, I see that as a little bit of a waste of money. But going back to the electric side of it, if you're used to paying just for your electricity, then that's perfectly fine. If you only come down 3-4 times a year, you're just paying for the electric that you use, which is obviously not going to be a lot. But now you've got this standing charge, and you pay that twice a year. And with VAT, it works out at £100 a time. So if you still don't come to site more than 3 or 4 times a year, regardless of whether you're using a very small amount of electric, you still got to add that £100 per 6 months to that price. And I think that is why people aren't going to like it. In my circumstance, it's completely different. I'm here a lot of the time, but I work for the site as well. But there is quite a lot of people on this site that use it a lot through the year, and they visit in autumn and sometimes in winter as well. So they get a lot of use out of their holiday homes. So to them, it's a good situation because they're paying a lot lower rate at 23 pence rather than the 39 pence. Yes, there is that standing charge on top, but it depends on how much electric you use in that van. It depends on what sort of heating that you've got. If you've got primarily electrical heating, then in the long run, you're going to save money because you've got such a low rate now, and they'll balance themselves out over the year, especially if you've got things like an electric fire, panel heaters, oil filled radiators, and an electric cooker. They're all now running at a lower cost. And if you do come down to your van very often, which a lot of people on this site do, it's not really going to make much of a difference to you. But obviously, if you only use it a couple of times a year, you're going to be subject to £200 in standing charges over that year, even though you've probably not used hardly any electric. And a lot of people come down here for spring and summer, but they go away in autumn and winter because it's just too cold for them, which you can perfectly understand. So that means that for 6 months out a year, they're not using that caravan at all. But when they get the next bill, even though it will say there's no electricity owed because they'll have drained down, turned all the electric off from the isolation box outside, so they've not used any electricity, but you've still got to pay that £100 standing charge. I think that is going to make a bit of a difference come the new season to people. But there are other things that's occurring on site which I think offset it. Like the owners took over this site, and it has been mentioned more than once that when somebody takes over a site, they kick vans off, they up the rents, all that sort of stuff. That doesn't happen on this site. When this site was taken over, the new owner told everybody there was no age limits on vans, which was a massive worry, and that's very understandable. He basically just said as long as your van's kept clean, it can stay on site as long as you want it to, which I think was a massive thing. But also the site fees were £3,250, and rather than up the site fees, he reduced them by £150. So we're now paying £3,100. But on top of that, that price has been froze for the next 2 years. So it depends on the situation that you're personally in. If you spend a lot of time down here, you're not going to be any worse off. But if you spend very little time on site, then that standing charge is not going to benefit you, even though you've got that new reduced rate. I don't know how it works on other sites. I know a lot of sites do close down for a set amount of months, usually about 3 months, but they have meters, so surely they have standing charges. And I would think that even though you've got no access to your holiday home, you'll still have to pay a daily standing charge, even for the months that it's closed. So I just thought that that was worth going over. It's just the ups and downs of having 12 months access to an holiday park if you don't really use it that much. But we've got more news concerning this van. As you'll remember, we bought it quite recently because of the reason I've just explained. The guy just didn't use it anymore. But this van has got full central heating, so it's a really good upgrade for us this year. But you may remember, and I have had somebody ask me about this in comments quite recently, we checked underneath the van and there's no underfloor insulation, and that is something we definitely need to get sorted out. So we've been making a few inquiries to various people, and we've found a guy, and it just so happens is coming to this side to insulate under another van, but he's also doing another van across from that as well. So we had a word with him and asked him if he'd be willing to do ours as well. I think the price is going to be about £500, and that's for him to provide all the materials and do the job as well, which I thought was quite reasonable. But because we're having 3 vans done all at the same time on this site, he's knocking about £50 off each. So happy days. We can book him in, hopefully for this side of Christmas, get all this van insulated underneath, and then we're also partitioning off this room from the kitchen. And we've already got the doors. They arrived a couple of days ago. Unfortunately, they're damaged, so we're going to have to send those back and get some new ones. I'll just give you a quick look at them so you can see the type of doors that we've bought. So these are the doors that we've bought, white panelled ones. Well, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this. If you look at that corner, it's all been chipped away. so it doesn't look very nice at all. But it's not just that part. That is on both doors. One is chipped like that at the top and bottom, and the other just at the top. So, considering they're brand new doors, I'm not prepared to fit them. So you can see why I wasn't too impressed with those doors. So we're just going to get those sent back and replaced, and then we'll move forward to getting it all partitioned off. And that is going to keep it even warmer in this room through winter and save us a bit more money on that new rating that we've got. Anyway, thank you so much for being part of the channel. I really do appreciate it. And if you're interested in seeing how it goes when we come to insulate underneath this van and partition off that kitchen, then please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. And I'll see you next time. Take care and stay warm.